Hey guys, I am back. I know I've been on a ridiculously long hiatus for anyone who watches my videos, but I've finally finished with uni. I graduated in July, and to be honest, I've just been reading a lot more and writing definitely a lot more. I could be doing my masters, but that's a whole another thing for another video. But today I wanted to talk about a book I've recently just finished, and that is Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. You can see that my copy is a bit battered and bruised. Shows how much you love a book when you kind of use it to kind of a full extent. So it's definitely not as pretty as it was when I first bought it. Right, so for anyone who doesn't know, Leah on the Offbeat is the direct sequel to Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, which was recently made into a film starring Nick Robinson. Love Simon. So this follows Leah, Simon's best friend, and we kind of see the final few weeks. The final few weeks of high school, graduation's coming up, prom is coming up, and the friendship group really kind of starting to pull away from each other as they kind of start their plans for college and basically moving on from high school. Leah was the main protagonist in this one, and I'm going to go into non-spoilers and then go into a spoilery chat. So this video will be quite long. I'm going to do it in one go, as I usually do. So I might mumble, I might, have to check this, but we'll see how we go. Right, so what I liked about the book, without going into spoilers at the moment, Leah was definitely a good narrator. I enjoyed being in her head as a reader. I enjoyed the pop culture references. Some people have said maybe too many, but I like them. I like the Harry Potter references as a Harry Potter fan. I like the references to fan fiction, the sort of Disney references here and there. Like, it felt appropriate to Leah's character, which I thought was good. And, I kind of liked where she was coming from in many different aspects. I liked how she was with her home situation, with her mum. I found that relationship very interesting, but I'll go more into that in my spoilers review. I really enjoyed her voice overall as a narrator. One of the things that I didn't enjoy was how rushed the love story I felt was. What I loved about Simon versus Homo Sapiens Agenda with Simon and Blue, for anyone who doesn't know who Blue is yet, for Simon and Blue, that was a very, very slow burner, which was good. But with Leah, it was so rushed, so quick. And just going back to Simon and Blue real quickly, that was a relationship I kind of saw how they fell in love because you saw that development. You saw they got to know each other through the emails, like in You've Got Mail with Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks, which, kind of a good film. But I kind of liked that kind of, they fell in love through letters and they fell in love with each other as people before they saw each other as, in real life. And it was actually really good. They were already attracted to each other already, but they fell in love through them as people rather than a plot device or just because, it was in the book. Like, I was like, okay, I like how these two have fallen in love with each other. And it was painfully obvious who Blue was in the book. In the film, you really do have to kind of, I kind of wish I saw the film and then read the book. Because if I saw the film, I would have probably questioned myself a few times. But when I read the book, I was like, no, I know who that is. Very obvious who is. But I thought that was its charm because it was like, as a reader, but as Simon, he was so innocently oblivious. But anyway, going back to Leah, what I didn't like about the romance was that it felt very rushed and it felt more like a plot device. I mean, I spoke with a few friends. We went to, it was actually a couple of months ago, actually. We went to go watch the film when it first came out. We got free tickets, and, I reviewed it on Letterboxd. So it came out a week. There was free tickets going a week before its general release in the UK. And, no, actually a good few weeks before it came out, because it came out in April, and we went to go see it in March. But yeah, there was a early screenings, literally by our university. So we all decided to apply for free tickets, which we got. And yeah, we went to go see it, had a good time. It was it was a good evening. But one of the things I said was I kind of thought maybe Leah would get with this character, and I was open to see how it would develop, because I couldn't see how it could happen, but I was open to, like, okay, maybe I'll be proved wrong. With this story, my issue was it felt so rushed, and I kind of wondered to myself a little bit, how we have we got here from here? It just doesn't. It, I love the characters, but I didn't like them as a romantic pairing. That was my big issue, and the ending kind of felt very contrived. Not even contrived. It felt very wish fulfillment. Like, it was a happy ending that I don't feel like the character they kind of deserved, and a lot of things were left a little bit too open. And also, one of my favorite characters in the first book, and also how he was played in the film, because he was such a nice character. He turned into such a idiot. A really obnoxious idiot in this book, which I kind of got, but at the same time I was thinking, why? I'm starting not to like his character, and I just, purely because it felt very out of character for him to just, like, he had no development. I mean, in Simon, everyone I felt kind of developed, but here it felt like everyone was static. They were kind of one way at the beginning, and there was very, very small changes at the end, which you're not expecting a massive transformation, but I would have liked to see, I don't know, I would have liked this to be a more slower paced love story if she was going to put these two together. I, because I genuinely did not think these two worked as a romantic couple, purely because it was so quick. I didn't buy into the romance. So yeah, that's going to be it for the non-spoilers, but I'd highly recommend this book to anyone who liked it. I mean, anyone who liked Simon or liked the Love Simon film. Read this, and I think you will like it. You will like it, but you might have some of the same issues that I might have when I go into the non-spoilery section. So yeah, if you haven't read the book, go read it, come back, and then we can discuss in the comments what you thought of this book. Even if you didn't like it, I would love to hear why, and just, get that dialogue going. But yeah, with this, I'm going to go into spoilers now. So, with this book, the main thing I didn't like was Leah and Abby being a pairing. Like I said, I kind of thought it would happen, but how it happened, I did not like it. And it's a bit of a tough one, really, because, I like the fact that there was bisexual characters. I feel like you don't see a lot of that, and, the fact that Leah was very comfortable. It's hard to say she was even comfortable with it, because she told her mum, so her mum knew that she was bisexual when she was 11, but none of her friends knew. So then that made me question, is she really comfortable with it? And also, she'd not really dated anyone, boy or girl. Now, I said in my non-spoilers that I liked Leah, her voice, but what I kind of realised was she'd had romantic feelings for everyone, the main three of her friendship group. At one point, she had romantic feelings for. And not that that was a problem, because, it could happen. Unrequited feelings are very common, especially in real life with friendship groups and so on, especially when these kids are like 17, 18 years old. But the fact that only Simon's one felt a bit... No, actually, none of them felt like they'd been resolved. I mean, Leah kind of admits that I think she had her first crush on Simon, then it was Nick in middle school, and now it's Abby in high school. So they kind of go through different stages. I mean, with the film, what I liked about it was they actually addressed it. I mean, stuff that went on in this book, I felt like was written around the time the film was being written, I want to say. Because, I don't want to say, because I read in an interview that, Becky Albertalli wanted to have Evan, I want to say, please correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the guys that Simon likes in the film, who kind of takes on is it Cal role from the book in the film, but he's an original character. I really can't remember his name. But yeah, I know Becky was writing this around the time the film was being done. And she even said to her agent, could we use this character? Could I have him make an appearance in this book? And the agent actually said, well, the character is actually owned by, 20th Century Fox, so you could apply for it, but it probably would be quite difficult to get it. So, the character didn't make an appearance in this book. But I felt like this was being written to coincide with the film as well. Because, it was... With the I'm gonna go off track a bit to kind of make a point. With the film, Leah admits to liking Simon romantically. But before this, Leah is kind of, everyone kind of, this is in the book as well. Everyone thinks Leah has feelings for Nick. And that I thought that as well. I didn't think it was for Simon, but even in the book it kind of contradicts itself, because this was years ago she had feelings for Simon. Years ago she had feelings for Nick. Childhood crushes. But with Abby, I couldn't see it. I mean, it was a tough one. But yeah, with the film they kind of addressed the fact that Leah did have feelings for Simon. And, she felt more betrayed that, Simon was kind of pushing her and Nick together when, Nick had feelings for Abby. So the dynamics were very interesting, but I felt like they were really mixed up here, which was quite tough. Also, the male characters, as a man reading a female narrated book, the male characters I found very frustrating, and I felt like it was intentional that the reader wasn't supposed to like them on a more level than Leah does, because we are seeing them from Leah's perspective. With Nick, as I said in my non-spoiler review, he completely changed his character. He turned into such an arsehole throughout this book when Abby breaks up with him because she doesn't want to do long distance. The way he deals with it initially, I was like, okay, I get it. They've been together for a good while. Naturally, you would be devastated. But this behaviour continued throughout the entire book. And then at the end, there was no resolution. Like, even Leah was thinking to herself, okay, I think he's having a bit of a breakdown. Like, he wasn't pulled back. Like, in the first book, And in the film, he was such a lovable character, so likable, and I loved his friendship with Simon. It was a really good bromance that they had, which was great. In this book, I feel like Nick was so written, so out of character to what he was before, that it's not that I didn't like him, it's just I felt like I didn't like this new version of him because we didn't see him better. We saw him be an absolute twat to all of his friends, to his ex-girlfriend. At prom, he was the biggest twat. And we don't see a resolution. We don't see him hold his hands up. We see him feel guilty about it, feel awkward about it, feel, very embarrassed, but he doesn't make amends, which kind of sucks. Yeah, so I didn't like what was done with Nick, but also with Garrett. Garrett. I need to say Garrett. With Garrett, who was Leah's other love interest, but that didn't really go anywhere. The thing is, what I liked about Leah's narration is that she was annoyed that, if a boy is pursuing her, let them pursue her. But with some boys, if, a girl is a bit flirty, instead of them feeling hang on, actually not be possessive. I want to make that very clear. Not be possessive or controlling, but, prove like, I'm not gonna, I want to be with you. I don't like the idea of, even if it's girl on girl, like, I want to be with you. Like, and, fight for it, like in a healthy, romantic way, not in a creepy stalker way. But with Garrett, he was written as such a sort of, in a lot of ways, he was sweet, but because we were seeing him through Leah's eyes, I felt like she was highlighting everything annoying about him, and that became more character traits. But I feel like that was more Leah as a narrator, but as an author, I I felt like there was no contest, but Abby wasn't much of a reward. Like, Leah had two love interests in a way, but no one actually put up a fight for her. And going back to Simon, what I loved about Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda in the book and the film, Simon has to, put up a fight to get Blue back. Like, he wants, he realizes he's messed up, and he wants to be with the guy he loves, which was great as a character development because you kind of saw that real growth from him. With Leah, we saw a growth that felt it felt very rushed. It's a very tough one. Yeah, but it kind of fell into a little bit of tropes. Like, when Leah and Abby first kissed, it's a drunk kiss, which, they happen. That wasn't the issue. The fact that Abby's first response is, two straight girls messing around. And understandably, that is very hurtful to Leah. But Leah also is very horrible to Abby when she admits that she thinks she's bisexual, but she describes it as being low-key bisexual. At first I thought, really? Like, but then I thought, there are so many labels nowadays and people are so, open to it that, in a way I felt like no one really cares if you're bi. Like, you don't need to stay low-key, but she just come to terms with it in her own way. And, she just started to come out. So I got it, but at the same time, I thought Leah's response was very, very mean, to be fair. And there's so many. Once I've started talking about this, it's quite hard. So quite hard to really go into what, because I gave it 5 stars, but it's quite hard to say what I didn't like about it because I love Becky Albertalli's writing, but with this book, I felt like this was more fan service, and I didn't even feel like this was fan service because I remember seeing in her Twitter and on her social medias like that, she wasn't going to do a Simon and Bram sequel, which was fine. She wasn't going to do a Bram prequel, which would have been Simon versus Homo Sapiens, but from Bram's perspective. I'll admit I was one of the fans who asked, would you consider doing that? Because for me as a writer, I felt like seeing the story from Bram's perspective, who's such an introvert, but he breaks so many stereotypes of a character, which I thought was great. He was, you know, he wasn't the stereotypical gay African American character. He was nerdy and he was sporty and he was very kind of goofy and sweet and he was like, so many people fancied him, but he was so shy. And I love that he felt like a more three-dimensional character. So I was one of the people who asked, would you do like a prequel, but show what Brown was going through? Because I feel like that would be a really good read. And, I saw in her sort of responses to other people, which, kind of already answered my question anyway, that she didn't want to do a Bram and Simon sequel because she didn't want Simon and Bram to break up. Which I understand because they are a great pairing and I wouldn't have wanted to see them break up. But, here's the but. With what went on in this book, I feel like I would have rather have read that from either Simon or Bram's perspective than read Leah and Abby. Now, the reason for that being Simon and Bram, they've got a really good relationship. They didn't need to break up, but I felt like there was enough of, a bit of challenges that would have made a good read. The fact that they might be doing long distance and Simon's not ready to Simon doesn't want to go to another university away from Bram, but at the same time he loves the college he looked at, which was completely understandable, and just the thought of doing long distance was scary for him. And he kind of puts off telling Bram for the entirety of the book. And at the end of it, we know Bram's fine with it. He does tell him, but we don't know that for sure. I mean, we know it, but we don't hear Bram say, it was kind of, I would have liked to have seen Bram kind of really say, look, we're going to make it work. I mean, they kind of do say it at prom, but it's when Nick's being an asshole and getting drunk in the limo. So it kind of puts on a bit of a buzz kill. The fact that, I feel like Simon and Bram would be the couple who could make long distance work, which is what I love about their characters. But yeah, I kind of, with Leah, it's tough because I feel like I'm running about this book, but I loved it in so many ways, but I would have liked this to be a slower paced book, really slower paced. And I don't know, I would have put Leah with Abby, to be fair. I mean, Leah as being bisexual, yeah, absolutely. But anyone else would have been okay. Even Taylor, and seeing that dynamic. I mean, it's a tough one. I felt like some characters were rewritten, like Nick, to be completely different from the first book, and there was no development there. He didn't get better. We heard he got better in the epilogue, but that was it. And Garrett, I kind of would have wanted him to be with Leah in a way. I really liked Garrett, but I felt like Leah was really focusing on his flaws, and Becky Albertalli as a writer to kind of push everyone to be like Leah and Abby to kind of say, we don't like Garrett because of this. But I would have liked to see that a bit more. All right. Another thing I want to go into is there's casual racism in this, which was actually one of the things I thought Albertalli handled brilliantly in this book. And another reason why I love this book is Morgan, who a character. Oh, pardon me. Sorry, this is the problem when I film this all in one go. Morgan as a character we kind of see her in the first book. She sits with Simon and the main other three, the core four basically. There's another group of people who also sits with them. Bram's among them, and so is Morgan and Anna. And, I liked how that group was kind of integrated around lunch. But yeah, Morgan is in Leah's band, and basically Morgan doesn't get into Georgia University, but Abby and Leah does. I think Leah gets in on a scholarship, and Abby gets in based on her academic grades from the time she moved to Creekwood. They didn't count the grades from her previous school, which I thought was very stupid. But even then, and her extracurricular, she got in on academic achievements and also extracurricular, which, is completely understandable. Morgan has a moment where she very rudely, but very subtly, implies that Abby only got in because she was black. And Leah's response to it was brilliant because she calls her out straight away. And I liked how that was kind of dealt with. Because another thing that was great about Becky Albertalli's world building is that there are so many racially diverse characters, is that it kind of does have an effect on the friendship group. But Leah sticks to her guns and she doesn't. It's not even about her feelings for Abby, it's just she saw someone being so out of order and she called them out on it, which was great. That was something I really appreciate about this book because, there are so many times where people are casually horrible about someone's race, gender, sexuality, disability. They throw in casual insults, but and then when they're called out on it, they're more offended that they've been called a bigot or a racist or a homophobe than actually the fact that, they actually have been. And I liked how this book kind of addressed that. That was one of the strong things that I felt this book did address. So I liked how it dealt with racism. Also, Abby's response to it, Bram's response to it as being, people of colour. And, the fact that they're both with people who don't care about their race, which, no one cares anyway, race, gender, sexuality, as long as you're, in love, and, that doesn't matter, which I feel like these books kind of make a good point of it doesn't matter what your sort of race, gender, sexuality, ability, weight, if you have feelings for someone, that's great. But the love story didn't really portray that for me the way I would have wanted it. I mean, for me, if the story had been done a lot slower, I might have been, a bit more keen on Leah and Abby. I kind of felt like their relationship was rushed. I didn't like how they got together. I didn't like how Nick was made to be, so horrible that I felt like I wasn't supposed to feel bad, but I still felt bad, even when he was being an arsehole. I knew it was coming from loads of hurt because all of these characters, everyone is flawed. And even Abby was a bit flawed in the way, she handled it. The fact that was another tough thing with how Abby dealt with the breakup because she was sad, but she wasn't. She kind of made a lot of dialogue moments where she was like, "Oh, I'm not allowed to be sad," and it's like, you kind of are. I'd rather see you be sad than because we don't see. She cries a little bit, but overall, as soon as she's with Leah, she kind of forgets about Nick. And, they spend so long not liking each other that for them to fall in love this quickly, even in the upside of Unrequited, which was another thing I noticed, anyone who's read Becky Albertalli's books, is that all three of her books have been set in the same universe, so characters do kind of intertwine a little bit. With Upside of Unrequited, it's the middle book in this trilogy so far, and it's set 5 months after Simon vs. Homo Sapiens. Leah and the Offbeat is set a year after Um, Simon versus the Homo Sapiens. So Upside is in the middle basically, and it's about not Leah's, Abby's cousins, and they get mentioned in this book, which I thought was very nice. But when she even talks about Leah then in the Upside of Unrequited, and we're reading it from a complete new character's perspective, Leah and Abby don't like each other. So for them to not only like each other, but fall in love so quickly, I struggled with it. So yeah, but overall, hang on 1 minute. Sorry about that. Yeah. So, lost my train of thought. Yeah, I'm just going to talk about the ending real quick before I wrap this up, because if you stuck around for this long, I applaud you. I don't like to make anyone sit through such a long review, but I had very mixed opinions about this book, and it was hard to put it into words. But overall, I love this book, but there were a few glaring issues for me. The ending. The ending I liked because it brought back nostalgia from the first book, which I loved. But at the same time, I felt like it was just all wrapped up very quickly. I felt like Becky Albertalli isn't going to return to the series for the foreseeable future, and consciously she knew that. So for the time being, she wanted to wrap stuff up. But I think she should have left it a bit more open. That way, if she was to do a sequel, like them coming home from freshman year of college and a bit of a reunion, she'd have a bit more wiggle room to play with. It felt very closed-ended. I don't think there's going to be another book, which is kind of sad to admit, but, if she doesn't want to write it, I completely accept that, and, this is a good book overall. I need to stop moving this around. I just need to, it's just, I wish it was done slower. I wish it was more evenly paced. I wish it wasn't just such a rush to the prom and to Abby and Leah, and because at one point I was genuinely, at the end, Leah admits that she's in love with Abby, and I'm thinking, where did that come from? Because at the moment I didn't see what either of them kind of brought to a potential relationship. As a friendship, they had a lot of potential. I liked their scenes together actually when they were just friends and they'd gone to the university tour, and they was talking about Morgan and the fact Abby feels that she has to do better in everything she does because there are people who could be casually racist or just horrible individuals. I honestly felt like this should have been more Leah and Abby building a friendship. Maybe the drunken kiss as well could be also thrown in there. And, Leah helping Abby come to terms with it. And another love interest for Leah I would have preferred. I just didn't like how it went from hate, friends, love so quickly. And I felt very unrealistically. There were a couple of flashback scenes which I felt were to kind of convey, wait, these two were friends before. I did not get that all in Love, Simon, or, Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, or Outside of Unrequited. So for them to become friends, to become lovers, to break up, to get together in one book, it kind of felt a bit too much. I would have rather this been a friendship book. Both girls could be bisexual, both girls, everything could happen that does happen, but I feel like it would have been a stronger, clearer narrative if Leah and Abby remained friends. And they both had different love interests. and Nick was a bit more in character, and he wasn't just a depressed douchebag for the entirety of the book. Which, again, I keep coming back to Nick, but I loved Nick in the first story, and this one he just was so. But overall, if you want a quick summary, good book, highly recommend it. Not as good as Simon vs. Homo Sapiens Agenda, although I feel it is better than The Upside of Unrequited, which I read this year. Anyone who follows me on Goodreads will know I read it earlier this year, but because I've been in the final stages of university and graduation's coming up, I haven't been reviewing on Goodreads or YouTube for such a long time. So I might do a review of Upside today to actually kind of get my thoughts out about that. But yeah, good book overall. Better than The Upside of Unrequited, but not as good as Simon vs. Homo Sapiens Agenda, because that was such a good book. And I actually bought the special edition last year, so I feel like this is an excuse for me to reread it. Yeah, I highly recommend this book for anyone who's a fan of either the film Love, Simon or you read Simon vs. Homo Sapiens Agenda. You will enjoy this book because Simon and Brown's relationship, if you're a fan of them, which if you read or saw the film, how could you not be? It is very sweet. And like I said before, I might have preferred to see that narrative and, them kind of, not them breaking up in a big dramatic thing, but, them kind of coming to the end of high school and, dealing with the fact they're going to be long distance. Because everything with Leah and Abby was so neatly wrapped up. They was going to the same university. They, everything was so wrapped up. But yeah, definitely read this book. I think you would enjoy it. I will probably stick to my 5-star review, but this is just more a discussion. I in no way am berating this book or berating the author. This is just my personal opinions of what I didn't like about the book. But if anyone, kind of disagrees with me, that's why the comment section's open, and healthy discussions. As long as it's constructive and everyone can be nice to each other, I'm open to discussions. But for me, this book was good, not great. So yeah, thank you for sticking around for this very long review. I apologise, and yeah, have a good day.